On this episode of the show, I'm talking about my recent trip to Walt Disney World and the future of the WDW Opinion podcast. Let's go. What up, Opinioneers? Welcome to episode 112 of the WDW Opinion podcast. My name is Connor Brown. I'm a former cast member, author, blogger, travel agent, and a Walt Disney World expert, and I'm helping you plan for and daydream about your next perfect Walt Disney World vacation. If you're a new listener here, thank you for listening. Welcome to the show. Feel free to go back and check out all of our old podcast episodes where we cover a wide variety of Disney-related topics. And if you do enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts and or in Spotify. If you're a longtime listener, welcome back. Thanks for being here. If you continue to enjoy the show, be sure to share it with someone you think might enjoy it as well. All right, Opinioneers, long time no talk, but I'm happy to be back here on the WDW Opinion podcast, sharing Disney stuff with you guys. I took a little bit of a break, just a lot of stuff going on in my life, but we are back. We are back, baby, with new podcast episodes, and I am excited about that. We also have something new going on as well for the WDW Opinion podcast, because now, not only is this an audio podcast, well, it's also a video podcast. That's right. Oh yeah, baby. This episode right now and future episodes, they're going to be available to watch on YouTube. So that means not only do you get to hear me stumble upon my words during every episode, now you get to watch me stumble upon my words as well. If you want to do that, this is something I've wanted to do for a while, introduce a video component of the podcast. And I really started getting into video podcasts during quarantine. A lot of the comedy podcasts that I listen to, they have a video component as well. And I found myself when I was working during the day, I would put up a podcast on YouTube on one monitor, and on the other monitor, I do my work. And I enjoyed it. It felt like someone else was in the room with me, which is a little creepy, I know. But I liked having that option. And I found I was doing that much more than, putting in headphones and listening to it on my phone or what have you. I also know that just in general, a lot of people prefer to listen to stuff just right from YouTube. So I wanted to have that option for the show as well. And I also know there aren't a whole lot of Disney podcasts out there doing both. Sure, there are a few that have an audio version and a video version. But in the grand scheme of things, there's vloggers, there's news shows on YouTube about Disney, there's audio podcasts for sure, but there's not a whole lot that do both of them together. So I wanted to, kind of carve out that niche for WDW Opinion as well. Because of the structure, because of all of this, the video aspect and the audio aspect, the structure of the show might be changing just a little bit from what we've done in the past. And that's just to make editing the audio and the video versions a little easier for me, because it's going to be a lot of work for sure, but I'm excited to do it. I'll be figuring out the structure of the show as we go on, so thanks for bearing with me on that, and thanks for bearing with me as it's taken me a while to get this up and running. I heard from a lot of you who was reaching out saying, hey, what's up? You all right? Everything okay? I appreciate you all for listening, or for reaching out to me and expressing your concern about where I was. Thanks very much for doing that. If you do want to check out the show, watch it on YouTube, you can head over to wdwopinion.com/YouTube, wdwopinion.com/YouTube to check it out. And please let me know what you think. If you are watching right now, drop a comment. What do you think of the background? Do you like the blue lights back there? I'm still trying to tinker some stuff, still trying to get it all in focus and whatnot, but I got my attraction posters up there. I got all my Disney tchotchkes behind me. I kind of want to get a little bit of a better view to show it a little bit better. Right now I'm kind of blocking everything, but let me know what you think. And with all that squared away, today on the show, I'm going to be talking about my recent trip to Walt Disney World. So let's get into it. I think I'm going to call this episode Maskless Walt Disney World. Maskless Walt Disney World. And there's a big reason for that. Obviously, that we'll get into it. But, to get away the logistical stuff squared away first, this trip took place from May 16th through May 20th of 2021. Myself and my parents, we stayed at Bay Lake Tower, and we actually did kind of a split stay for this. So our first couple of nights, we stayed in a 1-bedroom in Bay Lake Tower, and then our second couple of nights, we stayed in a studio in Bay Lake Tower. So it was kind of cool to have that, I guess, different aspect to it. 1-bedroom, definitely prefer, and I believe my parents prefer as well. But the trip was booked just like a month before we left. Super spur of the moment. I needed vacation. My dad said he needed vacation. My mom's always ready to go. So we booked it about a month out. But as we booked it, and as we were getting closer and closer, we just started getting more good news. The first good news we heard was that on May 15th, which was the day before we were going to arrive, that was going to be the last day for temperature checks. So, ever since Disney World reopened back in summer of 2020 from their COVID closures, if you went into the parks, you had to get your temperature taken. Also, if you were going into a Disney-owned sit-down restaurant, before you got past the host stand, you also had to get your temperature taken. If you clocked in too high, you'd have to sit down for a little bit, and then they would retake it. If your temperature was still too high after that, you'd basically be asked to leave. The temperature checks never affected us too much. I told the story a couple times. I did get clocked pretty high coming in a couple times when I was there in the summer of 2020, Hollywood Studios in particular. But like I said, you just kind of sat down, cooled down a little. For me, when I got clocked high, it wasn't because I was actually hot. It was because I was basically sweating. I came from the parking lot. It was hot. My internal temperature wasn't necessarily that. I just had to cool down a little bit, and I wasn't sick or anything. So the temperature checks never really affected us, but what they did affect is it's another line. It's another line you have to go through before you get into the parks. So you'd have to do temperature check, and then security line, and then at the turnstile, that line as well. So it can add up. It never got super bad, but if you get there early in the morning, it could be a little crazy. Same thing with that Disney Springs. It could get a little crazy, maybe like 5 minutes, but everything adds up when you're on a Disney vacation. So that was great. We were super excited about that, about how the fact that when we got there on May 16th, we'd never have to take a temperature check. We're all vaccinated and stuff like that, so we weren't really worrying about that to begin with, but it was just cool knowing we didn't have to do that. But then the real kicker came just 2 days before we left, because Disney announced that the face mask restriction would be lifted for all outdoor common areas and pool decks. And this was like the best news ever, because the first day we were getting there was the first day this was being allowed to occur. So imagine this. I was just outside with some friends. I got the text or the email, hey, you don't have to wear masks outside in common areas at Walt Disney World anymore. And it's starting on May 16th. And that's when we were arriving at Walt Disney World. It was just so cool because me and my family and my friends, we all said the same thing about face masks. If you want me to put it on inside, I totally get all of that. I totally get abiding by it, having to keep them on outside too. Disney was just trying to be safe. Face masks inside don't really bother me because it's cool, but where the face masks really, really hurt was outside, walking from one attraction to the next. Super hot. It was hard to breathe. It would make you so much more tired, even though it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. Now, with this ruling that said if you're walking around any of the parks, you don't have to put them on, that was just fantastic. Now you could actually walk around with a beer, with a beverage, with something to eat, and you could have your face masks off as you walked around. Because before that, outside, you had to be completely stationary if you were eating or drinking in order to remove your face mask to do that. So we were super excited to do that. And our first theme park we walked into was Epcot. So to be able to go through the turnstiles, take your mask off, walk around World Showcase with a beer, and sip it as you strolled around, man, it was magic. It was pure, pure magic. And I was so excited just to see that. When we went, you had to wear masks when you were inside and on attractions, but there was a point in each line where it came like, okay, now it's time to put on those face masks. And it was different for each ride. Basically, it was as you pass under the threshold. The threshold meaning like the greeter position. It would be the same point where you'd scan your fast pass to get in. Like that's when cast members were saying, okay, it's time to put your face mask on. At that point, for most attractions, it was fine because you were already inside. Like that's when you walked inside, so you could get AC and stuff like that. But for a lot of attractions like Kilimanjaro Safaris, Haunted Mansion, you're still outside, so it's not the best, but you're just standing there, so it wasn't that big of a deal. By the time this podcast comes out, though, Disney will have lifted the face mask restrictions for pretty much everywhere, so you won't have to do that anymore inside if you are fully vaccinated. Disney won't be checking to your vaccination card or whatever. It's just on the honor system, which live up to that. And then, of course, if you want to wear a face mask still, you're more than welcome to do so. No one's going to stop you from doing that. But to be able to just walk around and feel the breeze on your face, smile, to see other guests smiling, it was really, really, really cool. Going into this, when I heard the news, I think it was funny because a lot of people were guessing that, okay, you don't have to wear face masks outside anymore. You're given the option to not wear face masks outside. A lot of people were saying it's probably going to be 50-50, meaning for every person you pass by, there's a 50-50 chance they're going to have a face mask on versus not having a face mask off. I was like, there's no way it's going to be 50-50. People are going to want to rip that thing off. And guess what? I was totally right, because I'd say it was closer to like 80-20. 80% of the people weren't wearing a mask outside, which again, you were allowed to do, versus 20% of the people were wearing ones outside. It might even be closer to 70-30 at times, but it was just funny because those people, they wanted to rip that mask off, and they did. And Disney allowing this was such a big deal. And, how everything's going in each state is different here in the United States, how it's going in Canada, how it's going across the pond in the UK, it's all different. But getting that news and being able to do that and not have to wear them outside as you're walking around, it's cool. At times it was funny because we would get off an attraction, our face mask would be off, or would be on rather, and we'd just be walking around and we totally forgot that our masks are still on just because we're so accustomed to it. And then we would like rip them off and be like, oh, we don't need to wear this. What are we doing? We're not thinking. But I love that. And it was great that we were able to do that. And I'll be honest, social distancing, when this news was announced, they still said, we're going to be social distancing, all that. It really is non-existent anymore. They still have markers on the ground. When we were there, Disney has announced they're going to start removing those markers in places. So there's going to be few and few in between. But I think it was hard when you said, okay, when you're outside, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. I think it was difficult to also tell people, but you still have to social distance in line. It just wasn't occurring, which, again, I was fine with as a fully vaccinated individual. I know the risk. I know everything that's going on with that, but I was totally okay with it. But no one was paying attention to those social distancing markers. And I mean, it makes sense, knowing what you're able to do outside without a mask on. As we go forward, those are going to be lifted up more and more, so social distancing is going to become less and less. I enjoyed social distancing when it first occurred, not necessarily from a safety perspective, but from a people don't need to be that close to me perspective. But now, we're going to have to lose that in order to start getting other stuff back. The funny thing is, though, even though social distancing isn't in place too much, the lines still seem pretty long. And that's, I think, just because Disney's trying to prevent people from bunching up in the lines. But they're still upping they're still inflating the wait times, for sure. So as a perfect example, when we were at Magic Kingdom, Haunted Mansion and People Mover, they were both posted at like 25 or 30-minute waits. We waited about 13 minutes in line for that. Kilimanjaro Safaris was posted as a 50-minute wait. We waited for 20 minutes in that line. Smuggler's Run was a 60-minute wait, and we still had to go all through Black Spire Outpost. We had to go back in the backstage area that they're doing right now. But even with a 60-minute wait posted, we were on in like 30 to 35 minutes. Soarin' was a 40-minute wait, and we were on in about 25 minutes. And of course, Living with the Land was a walk-on, and it was always delightful. So that was great. It was a really good time to go. It was like the week before Memorial Day, so I think a lot of people, spring break's not occurring. Obviously, school's about to get out, so a lot of people are still just saying, we're not going on vacation just yet. But because of that, I think it was a great time to go. Again, May 16th through the 20th is when we were there. The People Mover was back open, baby, which it hadn't been open in over a year. I hadn't been able to ride it in a very long time. I was happy to do that. Going to be even happier when I go down next time to be able to ride it without a mask on. But nonetheless, still excited that I got to get on that attraction and experience it. And boy, was it good. Couple of things that Disney really needs to come back. They really need shows to come back. I know they have Festival of the Lion King. I know it is in a modified format, but the line to get in Festival of the Lion King is insane. They run it still 7 times a day, but it's not enough. They need full capacity in there. They need full capacity in Finding Nemo. They need Finding Nemo to come back. Hollywood Studios, they need all those shows to come back ASAP because what's occurring is those are people eaters. They eat up 1,000 people at a time, which is a lot of people not in line, a lot of people not walking around. So because of that, even though wait times are inflated, and I know that they're inflated, they can still be debilitating to see and look at and experience. Hollywood Studios is probably the main culprit. Those lines can get pretty out of hand, especially when you don't have a Smugglers or a Rise of the Resistance boarding group. So because of that, man, they need shows to come back. They need shows to come back, especially at Hollywood Studios. It's just going to help. It's just going to help with crowd control. It's going to help with people doing things. It's going to help, especially in the summer, taking a load off, chilling and just not running to and fro or waiting in line. So that's going to be a big thing when it comes back, for sure. The next thing, I can't wait until cast members no longer have to wear face masks. I'm really looking forward to it. We had a couple interactions where, one in particular, we were at the Abracadabra on the boardwalk. We had this great server. He was very funny, but we only got like 60% of the conversation because He had a face mask, and then he had the shield, like the plastic shield over it. I'm going to be very excited when the cast members no longer have to wear the face masks if they don't want to, because communicating with them and getting those anecdotes, it's just going to be that much easier, and it's going to be that much simpler to understand them, which I'm really looking forward to. Overall, on this trip, I think the cast members, they were fantastic. I might chalk it up to the fact that they can finally see people smiling. That might be a big thing. And that's a big thing in the service industry. I know, as I worked on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and I worked front desk at the Yacht and Beach Club, when someone comes up to you and they're smiling and you provide a service for them and they smile in return, that's a big, big, big thing for people in the service industry. So I think people not having to wear the face masks was really, really cool. But overall, cast members were fantastic. Huge shout out to bus driver Roy, who pulls in the Contemporary with Epcot as his destination, realized there was an Epcot bus in front of him, and he decided, you know what? How about we change this from Epcot to Hollywood Studios? And that's where we were going. We got right on, and Roy took us to our destination, a little Disney magic. There was one interesting story as well. That's a huge shout out to this cast member too. So one night, and I wonder if this has ever happened to anyone before. One night we're eating dinner at Big River Grill on the boardwalk. It's really cool. It's a nice, they brew their own beers. Food's not bad at all. We sat outside. It was a beautiful night. Super, super awesome. Had a great time. We're ready to leave, and it's about 8:55 p.m. So we walk over to the boardwalk bus stop, and my thinking is, all right, even though Magic Kingdom's closing at 9, I bet you there's buses still running. So what we're going to do is we're going to get on the Magic Kingdom bus at the Boardwalk Resort. We're going to go to Magic Kingdom, and then we're just going to walk over from the Magic Kingdom to the Contemporary. It's like a 5-minute walk, and we'll be in our room in no time. We go to the bus stop. Sure enough, there's a Magic Kingdom bus coming in a couple of minutes. I'm like, perfect. Magic Kingdom bus pulls up. People get off. Me, my mom, and my dad were about to get on. The bus driver's like, Magic Kingdom's basically closed now. You won't be able to get in by the time we get there. And we go, oh yeah, we're just going to Magic Kingdom because we're going to walk over to the Contemporary, which is where we're staying. So it'll only take a couple minutes. We just think that this is going to be easier than taking an Uber. It'll be cheaper, of course, as well. And he said, so you're staying at the Contemporary? We're like, yeah. He's like, I'll just take you to Contemporary. No big deal. And we were like, are you serious? You're going to let us get in this bus all to ourselves. You're going to not go back to the Magic Kingdom where you're supposed to go, but you're going to just drop us off at the Contemporary like this is our own personal limo? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Shout out to bus driver Sergio for doing that for us. We got a private bus to take us from the boardwalk right to Contemporary. That doesn't happen, people. There's no buses going from one hotel to the next hotel. It doesn't work like that in Disney. It just doesn't work. But it was a really cool experience. Sergio was the man. And you could tell, not only were we incredibly grateful when we got off at the Contemporary, but you could tell that he was super happy, that we were appreciative. So thanks so much to Sergio for that awesome, awesome favor for us. And I want to know, have you guys ever experienced anything like that? Have you, gotten on a bus and, coaxed the bus driver into saying, hey, could you just drop us off at our hotel, even though that's not where you're going? I think that was a really cool story. It's something I'll always remember. And that's kind of one of those things where as I go more and more, I like those stories because I get to, kind of brag about them down the road. Another great cast member story is we were lounging at the pool at Bay Lake Tower, and we're just talking to the bartender there, the pool bartender, which, by the way, at that pool bar, you can get the Banana Cabana, which of course is the namesake of the pool bar at Caribbean Beach. And the Banana Cabana is a delightful cocktail. It's a little banana flavory, obviously, but I love it. But I had no idea you could get it at other pool bars, and you could get it at that Bay Lake Tower pool bar, which was really, really cool. So the bartender who was pouring us drinks, he was super friendly, really cool guy. Fast forward to the next day, my dad and I are playing golf at the Palm Golf Course, which is just across the street from Magic Kingdom. And we end up getting paired with the bartender. We're like, hey, you look familiar. Do you? He's like, yeah, I was just there. Are you those? He totally remembered who we were. We remembered who he was. But it was so funny just getting paired with him to play around at 18 on his off day. He was a super cool guy, super friendly, really, really, really awesome. And a couple days after that, we're waiting for the Tragical Express, and my dad is walking somewhere to get something, and a cast member pulls up next to him in a golf cart and says, hey, just wanted to say again how much fun I had playing golf with you guys. And it was the bartender. It was him. It was Dan, was his name. And he just went out of his way to stop wherever he was going. He noticed my dad, said thanks again for playing with me. It was just awesome. Which brings me to the main point of what I've already said. And I just want to talk about the cast members. They're always wonderful. But this trip in particular, they were on a whole nother level. I'm sure it has something to do with things getting more and more back to normal. They're able to do their job like they always wanted to do. But I think also, and this is me just speculating, but there were a lot of cast members that were furloughed, that were let go, which was awful. I never want anyone to lose their job for one reason or another. But I also think, and again, this is just me speculating, that the cast members who chose to come back after being furloughed or what have you, they're the real cream of the crop, the true believers. I think Disney knows who their best performers are. They probably went back out to them first saying, hey, would you like to come back? And the people that decided to come back are the ones that want to be there. I'm sure they probably lost a lot of really good cast members as well who just had to find jobs elsewhere, which sucks. But I think the ones that were able to hold out and who wanted to come back and work at Disney are the real cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, as they say in France, the France Pavilion. Sure, let's go with that. But I think that that's a big deal, and I think that goes a long way in why these cast members are performing the way that they're performing. I look forward to when they're able to take masks off. Like I said, I look forward when the international cast members get to come back more so. I look forward to when the college programmers get to come back as well. All those things are in motion, so that's going to be really, really cool. But overall, cast members just freaking awesome lately. Really, really, really cool. One story I do want to share it's a funny story. So we're sitting outside at Big River Grill on the boardwalk, which I think is sort of a hidden gem. Like I talked about it a lot, about it's good beer, it's good food, especially if you sit outside, like sitting outside on a nice day on the boardwalk, watching the people go by. The boardwalk, for me, hands down, one of the prettiest places on all of Walt Disney World property. For show. They make their own beer there at Big River Grill. But sitting outside, watching the world go by in one of the most picturesque places in Disney World, it's awesome. It's awesome. So we're sitting there, and the meal's winding down. And all of a sudden, our server is at the table right next to us. And we hear a psh, a glass shatter. Just shatters. Right on the boardwalk. Right on the wood of the boardwalk. But there's no one around. And there's no one around where the glass shattered, where the spot that it hit. So our server takes a couple steps back and looks up because there's rooms up there. So he's like, did someone throw a glass from their balcony? No one was up there. Nothing was moving. There was nothing going on. He thinks it was a light bulb just burst, but that doesn't make any sense because the crashing sound was when it hit the ground and it just shattered. So we're like, what the heck is going on here? Did someone throw something? Did what's going on? How is this possible? Everyone's kind of quiet. Our server's inspecting stuff, and then boom, we get full-on CSI Disney. There's like 9 managers out there. There's, the restaurant managers. There's a hotel manager. They're like sweeping the ground, looking for evidence. It's CSI Disney World, people. It's CSI Disney World. I don't think they ever figured it out. They wrote up a bunch of stuff. I think security came at one point, but that was just another reason I love sitting outside there. I wouldn't have gotten to see that if we were sitting inside. It was a funny story. No one got hurt, which was great, of course. But if you were there that night and you know what happened, send me a message. Let me know if this case was solved. I need to know who or what the culprit was. Would have loved to have put the sunglasses on, like David Caruso and CSI Miami. Looks like we've got a case of shattered expectations or something like that. That's what he would have said if he was there for CSI Disney. That probably wasn't the best catchphrase, but I think I don't know. It was wild. It was really, 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 really wild. But yeah, overall, it was a great trip. It's not that we had low expectations, but we just booked it really quickly on a whim. Had to get out of here. Had to go down there. The weather was freaking incredible. It was super windy the entire time, but that helped because it dropped the temperature down really, really, really low. Love just walking around, no masks on, interacting with all those cast members, getting some cool stories, whether it was Sergio dropping us off right at the Contemporary from the boardwalk, this CSI Disney World with a glass shattering, or Dan, our awesome bartender / golf partner. There's a lot of really, really awesome stuff that we did on this trip, and I'm grateful that we were able to experience it. Disney World's getting back more and more with each passing day. It's really cool to see everything. It's really cool that the mask mandate is being pretty much fully lifted come June 15th, I believe is the day. So we're going to still have reports more and more as we go down. Things still need to get back to normal. There's still a lot of big things like I talked about, but it'll get there. It'll get there for sure. But that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. If you did enjoy today's episode and you are on YouTube watching our first video podcast ever, if you're on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment letting me know you watched and that you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to the channel as well. For those people listening on Apple devices, please be sure to subscribe and rate and review the show on there. I'll be sure to read future reviews of the show on the air as well, like this one we got from a couple months ago, I think it was, but it's from Jake, who says, a Disney deep dive, 5 stars, JJake45, I should say. He says, Connor has been a great guest on Lou Mangello's podcast. We don't have to talk about him. I hope to hear him more on there. Love the work that he has done on his own podcast. The WDW Opinion podcast brings in some refreshing Disney content. Definitely a Disney Parks podcast I'll try to keep up with. Keep up the good work, Connor. Thanks so much, Jake, for that. I appreciate that. If you have a review like Jake you want to share with us, be sure to do so, and I'll read it on the air. If you listen on Spotify, please click the follow button on the show page, as that will help us as well over on Spotify. In between episodes, the best way to talk Disney with me is to join the WDW Opinioneers Facebook group. You can connect with your fellow Disney fanatics there To do so, you can go to wdwopinion.com/opinioneers. That's OPINIONEERS to join that community and to talk Disney with your fellow Disney fanatics. If you like the show, please do me a favor, share it with someone you think might enjoy the show as well. That would be huge if you could do that. And if this episode has you jonesing to get back to Disney World, if you're excited to visit Maskless Walt Disney World, and you're ready to book a vacation to Walt Disney World, I can help you with that as well. As a travel agent with ear to their travel, I'll help you find the best deals, answer any questions you have, book dining reservations for you, and I'll be an advocate for you, someone you can turn to for advice. And the best part about this service is that it is 100% free to use. It doesn't cost you a dime. It's going to save you money, actually. Reach out to me at Connor, CONOR, at eartotheirtravel.com, and I can help you book a trip. And of course, if there is ever anything I could ever do to help you, I am more than happy to try and do so. Just reach out to me at Connor, CONOR, at WDWopinion.com. If you have any questions or anything at all, I'd love to hear from you. You can go to WDWopinion.com/112 to check out the show notes page for this episode. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for us this week. If you liked what you heard today, then you've been listening or watching the WDW Opinion podcast. If by chance you didn't like what you heard, then you've been listening to Wastelanders, Old Man Star-Lord. I've been Connor Brown, and until next time, keep LTD living the dream, and I'll see ya real soon.